It's Friday night and welcome to the Fan Caste. I'm your host, Brainmuffin, the lifting nerd. I was going to say something different too, like the mother-loving nerd, I think. So with us, breaking the rules while driving, Mr. Erik Ward.
Hey, I'm hands-free, man. No laws are being broken.
I know. Hands-free or it's $700.
Yes, exactly.
And on the opposite coast, the crazy New Yorker with the most. He's moist. And he's fudge. Look him over.
Greetings, everyone, tonight. I'm a very moist. How are you doing?
All right. So I want to know, how come you guys have been harassing Kelly Tran so much that she left Instagram? I mean, that was just uncalled for.
I never said...
Kelly Tran? I mean, excuse me, Kelly Tran? I haven't been harassing her or anything.
I have nothing but goodwill towards her. I just hate the character she was.
Yeah.
She has a nice head.
Somebody on last night's, I don't know if it was I think it was in the chat, the live chat. Someone posted that she did finally release a statement, although I haven't seen it anywhere, saying that she, similar to why Daisy Ridley dropped off of Instagram, had nothing to do with harassment. That was all baloney and made up by the apologists, and of course, people ran with it. Unfortunately, Mark Hamill was one of those people. And, I don't understand. I can understand deactivating your account, but leaving stuff up. Daisy, she deleted her whole account because she didn't want to. She said she didn't want to grow up in the public like that. But it's like, wasn't she already 18 when she got Star Wars, or 19?
Yeah. She was over 18.
Yeah, I'm like, you're already grown up, but. Anyway, so again, it's another false flag. I was very suspicious of the timing of it when it first was released, because you have all this talk about TLJ tanking, not doing well. You have Solo not doing well, and there was a lot of rumors and speculation that Kennedy was out the door, and then all of a sudden you have this that to detract within a couple days. I think I was suspicious from the start. I even replied to, I don't know if it was Hamill's stream or somebody had retweeted something, and I replied to this whole big old long stream saying, okay, great, post the evidence. I want to see the evidence. If this is really true, this is despicable and horrible, but post some evidence. And only one person replied to that, which I was surprised.
I mean, honestly, how can anybody feel sorry for her? First of all, she's an actress. She works in Hollywood. She was in a Star Wars movie. She has an action, I should say not action figure, but she has action figures. How can anybody feel sorry for her? Man, put me in her shoes. I'll gladly take the hits because I'll be having a nice check to cash.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy?
Yeah.
Is that people want to make this all about Kelly Tran getting harassed, Daisy Ridley getting harassed, us harassed. Well, I'm not rich white man or anything like that, but it's always about blame the white male harassing the diverse group. But yet, wasn't there like actual harassment of what's his name? Was it Jake Lloyd? And when the prequels came out, like that was legit harassment that happened to him, and so much so that he went crazy from it.
Yeah, it's affecting him in adult life. All the shit.
Yeah, that is compared to the stuff that Kelly Tran's going to. I think Jake Lloyd had it much worse. Especially considering he was only a kid, too.
Yeah.
Well, she signed up to be an actress. So no one put a gun to her head and made her be in a Star Wars movie. You ask any celebrity, they'll tell you, that's the choice you make when you become a public figure. You're going to take shit from somebody. It happens.
Yeah.
You just got to roll with it, man, and just take the hits. Because, you'll also get a lot of compliments. I'm sure there's a lot of people that like her.
Oh, yeah. And and what happened to Jake Lloyd was absolute garbage. And I didn't like the prequels, but I sure as crap didn't go out of my way. I didn't even send a message to Lucas saying I don't like your movie. I just didn't go see the rest of them in theaters. And I sure as crap wasn't going to go find the actor and say this is horrible. I mean, it's extremely rare that a child actor is any good at all. Shirley Temple was, I think, a decent child actor for how young she was. But, Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone, it was okay for a child acting, and then and he grew up kind of weird too. I don't know how much crap he caught from. I mean, that was a good movie though. Home Alone 2 was stupid, but the first one was a good movie. And to some extent I agree, Eric, but to some extent too, yeah, you're gonna have your critics. But the way that people were harassing Jake, and if they were also doing this to Kelly, that is beyond unacceptable to me.
Of course, people are assholes.
But on an Instagram or a Twitter, you don't have to read the replies.
No, you don't.
A lot of stars treat those as output only, right? They never read a reply. They never, they have, because you can filter. You can say, I'm following my friends and I only want to see their posts. You can do that. So it's not. Huh?
It's like that argument we've been saying that for like the longest now. Like, it's the online sphere. You can just turn off the fucking computer or turn off the fucking phone. Or what about this? Don't even use social media. You don't have to as an actor and actress.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it's Disney holding the proverbial gun to these actors' heads, saying, well, yeah, you should have a social media presence. You should have this and you should have that. And if you don't, we just won't pay you, or we will blacklist you. Especially like.
Yeah, I don't know, because Daisy doesn't have one either.
I mean, with Daisy, I think with her, I mean, if she doesn't want to have social media, that's on her. And if anything, more power to you. That probably might be the one positive thing I can say about you, because I can't really think of that many. Same thing with Kelly Tran. If you just don't want to deal with social media, more power to you. Because what was it? When they did that study a couple of years ago, I think it was, that social media has like this tendency of creating. They didn't say if they created narcissism, but it was exposing it. Like, it was either people were already narcissistic and they were showing it, or they were developing it as a result of social media. So,
right.
You don't want to make more people like that in the world, especially in elitist type of mentality people.
Right.
The best thing she could have done was, she could have just said, you know what, everybody that's my fan, I appreciate it. Anybody that wants to take shots at me personally, not making fun of my character, but taking shots at me, I'd be like, I'd take the high one and go, you know what, I've already won. You're online harassing me. I'm an actress. I'm in a Star Wars movie. Who the fuck are you? I win. I'm not gonna lower myself to fucking having to, either argue with you or have to, get rid of an account. I'd be like, fuck that. Fuck you people. I'm not gonna take your shit.
Exactly.
Right. Well, I would like to quote Mark Twain here. I think it's applicable. Never argue with a fool. Onlookers may be able to tell the difference. And that's not what I'm looking for. I think it's never argue with a fool. They will lower you. Yeah, there it is. That's that. I like that other one too. So Mark Twain never. Well, I guess he did not say this. This is unknown. Never argue with an idiot. They will bring you down to their level and beat you with experience.
There are just people out there in the world that want to fuck with you. And now with social media and the internet, it's very easy to do.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's even easier to ignore it, because you can filter it. It's different if they're sending you letters. Even there, you can ignore stuff, or showing up at your house. We had people stalk. We've had stalkers kill stars. I don't know if you remember the TV show My Sister Sam.
Yep. I remember that girl that got stabbed. Was she killed or just stabbed?
I thought she died, but I can double
check.
Yeah,
I think she did die.
I think she was stabbed. I remember hearing about that.
I remember the actress. She was cute.
Well, and then Phil Hartman's wife shot him.
Yeah. I mean, that was not so much a stalkerish type of thing, but she was just a messed up woman to begin with, and he chose to still stick around with her.
Oh, I know. She died in '89, so Rebecca Lucy Schaefer was her name. Schaefer was fatally shot by her West Hollywood resident At Her West Hollywood Residence by Robert J. Bardo, a fan that had been stalking her for 3 years.
Wow.
And that's, I don't know, did you guys see the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson? That was one of the things that he said about
that was a
assassins.
shitty
Assassins are always known by their full name, except Sirhan. John Wilkes Booth, and I forget who was in that. So what about John Hinckley? They said, well, Reagan didn't.
David Chapman who shot John.
Right. But Reagan didn't die, so that's why it's just, John Hinckley. And they have a Robert John Bardo on the Wikipedia page. That's funny. But, I think it was a scam. I think it was a way, I think she just deleted it and somebody made the assumption, and they kind of ran with it for a couple of days to, detract from the horrible movies and the horrible box office. So,
yeah. Deflection.
And I can't believe somebody at Disney has not pulled Ryan Johnson aside and say, dude, shut your mouth.
Right.
You're just pissing off the audience. Just shut up.
Yeah. Well, they think the audience is toxic, I guess. I don't know. To me, the silence of Disney execs is acceptance of the message. So you have these people who are they're bent on, identity politics above all else, and they've made that bed and they're going to lay in it.
I mean, these people just don't. I don't know if they have any semblance of sanity or reality. I mean, you're in a service industry. You don't talk that way to your customers. Don't.
Exactly.
That's not good business.
That's the same argument that I used back when the early days of Gamergate, and you had all the. This was like we had all these people who worked in the games industry, all the journalists talk shit about the gamers, and I was like, listen, this is as somebody who has worked in customer service enough years of his life, better. You do not just bad talk your audience. Yeah, your audience can be wrong. It's not necessarily that they'll be 100% correct, but at the same time, you have to be courteous to them. You have to follow a certain level of ethics. And it was rampant. You saw there was like gamers with sexist, gamers were racist, misogynist, everything in the book. So you even had some people that they associated with that were actively calling for gamers to be killed. And where was the press for that? It was just about, let's hammer it home that gamers were sexist. And this is pretty much the same thing that's happening right now with Star Wars fan base. They want to alienate half the fan base as all these supportive, progressive fans, LGBT, whatever, this diversity, that, and then the other group, it just happens to be plain white men, like they always do. They can't think of any other thing to say other than the same talking points over and over again.
I mean, if you're a Bob Iger or if you're a Disney board member, you got to be sitting there looking at this shit going, what the hell kind of business are we running? I mean, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke.
And what's funny is that they essentially like Leif said, their silence is pretty much acceptance of it. Whether they actually believe in it or not is another story, but they've accepted it into their business practice. And that's what's doing more damage too.
They know that the brand is being damaged. And I do think that, I don't think she's going to be fired. I think she's just going to step down. It'll be a PR move, but I think she's going to be gone soon.
Well, they can't fire her because if they do, think about what that potentially could mean for Disney. And someone like Kathleen Kennedy will come around, and mark my words, I'm not jinxing anything, so I'm knocking on wood right now. But mark my words, if they were to fire her, she would immediately be the type of person to turn that around or try to make a lawsuit saying I was discriminated because I'm a woman or something like that, or go on social media and say I was fired because I was a woman. Something along those lines. I would guarantee you she would do something like that if they were to fire her, which is why I think there'll probably be more pressure for her to step down willingly. At least that way she can't, just twist that narrative in her direction. But they're going
to tell her, you either leave or we're going to be fired. You choose.
I doubt the fire one, man. I just really doubt that one. Leave, yes, I can find that.
And I cannot wait to Ryan Johnson's little nihilistic, pompous little ass gets that pink slip handed to him. Say, hey, dude, thanks for nothing. Go fuck yourself. Get out of here. Get the fucking road.
He's the one that's really doing a lot more damage. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy, yeah, she's doing a lot of damage, but in my opinion, I think Ryan Johnson really is taking it to like another level.
He's an asshole, man. He's a little conniving little asshole. You just gotta try to fuck with people. It's like, man, you don't do that to your fans. I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, if you don't like my movie, that's fine. That's a fair criticism, but you don't have to call people out and just go out of your way to piss them off. It's like, God, man.
Yeah, and then you wonder why people want Lucas back so badly, because at least Lucas was humble about it. You know, okay, yeah, I made a movie, and he didn't really need to apologize to the fans, more or less. His actions kind of were an apology in themselves when he did the prequels, but he didn't really have to, but he did it because he cared about the brand, he cared about the fans, he cared about telling the story.
He's a good businessman.
He was a smart businessman, and got to give him credit. That kept the franchise alive despite, essentially, you could say anything from terrible to mediocre prequels. Brand was still alive and well.
Ryan Johnson's just not professional. It's not the way you do business.
No, it's not. I agree with you.
Hey, look at Ron Howard. Ron Howard.
Uh-oh. He dropped. Uh-oh.
Damn it, they got him again.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
And usually he's on a good point, too. Like, what is it with...
Of course he was.
What is it with these businesses? Like, what kind of people are you hiring to represent your companies? It's not even just Disney. It's in general. You notice, like, there's been more of a rise now in hiring this, like, SJW cult mentality with these individuals that are all, like, about the progressive identity politics and this bullshit. But it's like they're representing the company in such a negative light. Like, they're the ones going out there. If you disagree with them, if you tell them something, they want to immediately go to Twitter. And what was it that there was that one case about that girl who she was like a waitress or something, and I think she falsified something on a receipt. Like, she wrote something, I think was like sexist or something.
Right. Well, I think it was a. Is that the one where it was supposed to be a Christian and left no tip, and she was trying to make, and it turns out they left a huge tip, and yeah, something like that, yeah.
And it's like, I would not only fire that person on the spot for basically potentially doing damage to my company, I will see to it that person gets blacklisted from any job from that point on. Like, listen, one thing you have to realize with any job is that you really have the freedom of choice to walk out of that job. And most jobs, every job I've worked at, I've had that option to walk away if I didn't like things. And in some cases I have.
No, it's
but
not.
What the hell's going on there?
Oh my gosh.
She's playing some game. I don't know.
No.
Hold on. Kellogg's, what game are you playing?
What game are you playing? Kelly.
I can't.
He called you Kellogg's, though.
The other end.
She can't hear me. She's too
No,
busy.
Overwatch sucks.
It's not Overwatch. It's they're in a boat or something.
Pirates of the Caribbean sucks.
Yeah, it's not that either.
Damn it, we got derailed. I forgot. We got a missing guy. I got derailed midway from something about what's going on with, like, making companies look bad or some shit like that.
For crying out loud. Why is this so difficult?
Yeah, and I'm that's 37. I've got a BBC that I can't believe we've never used before. I could have sworn we had, but I'm looking at the list, and while you guys were talking, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go look at past episodes to make sure I didn't screw up, and I did. Episode 38, I completely messed up, but so far I haven't found her anywhere, and I'm like, wow, that's really good, bizarre. So yeah, he was making a great point, and I've tried 3 times now to get him back. He's showing up as green.
I see him here.
Yeah. Let's see if I can. I'll message him real quickly.
It's like whatever happened to reality's flank. Whatever happened to reality's Frank happened to Erik Ward.
Yeah. Yeah, and I still do. I did it again this time. I don't do it every week, but I do sometimes. I just see if reality's Frank is paying attention, and I send an invite. But he doesn't show up, man. I don't even know if he listens anymore. I was good last night to found out Phil listens to the main show. Hey, welcome back, Erik.
All right, sorry about that.
All right. You remember where you were? Cut you off mid-rant. It's great.
Oh, I was just bitching about, just Ryan Johnson. I just don't understand why someone that is in the industry and obviously understands the rules, why he would be trying to, start this pissing contest with fans. It's like, dude, you're going to lose. You're not going to win.
No.
Probably that elitist mentality. Like, you don't tell me I'm wrong. I tell you you're wrong type of mentality.
Yeah. And it is the way he is. I mean, that was one of the things that, I don't know if you guys saw that clip from, I don't know how many years ago, where he said that his goal was to split the audience. And he didn't really split it 50-50. He split it like a third and two-thirds. Two-thirds of the audience hates that movie. He overdid it. But, lowest audience score of any Star Wars movie.
It's not a good movie. No.
And that brings me to another topic. I thought it was 56%, but I was watching. Jeremy at Geeks and Gamers had a link to DVD sales of The Last Jedi. So this was this past week. Let's see if I can find it real quickly because I want to get the right number. I think it's 56% that The Last Jedi sales are 56% lower for the first week than The Force Awakens. So, further evidence. This is from Reddit of all places. Who is this? This is I'm not sure who's posting this. But The Last Jedi Blu-ray sales dropped to 56% of Force Awakens. Further evidence that The Last Jedi sadly did turn off about half the audience. The Numbers.com is now reporting, that's the-numbers.com is the name of the website, is now reporting that the launch week sales of The Last Jedi, and it's not good. Whereas The Force Awakens sold 3,420,540 units in its first week of release, The Last Jedi sold only 1,940,241 units. In raw monetary terms, The Last Jedi brought in over $40 million less revenue in the first week of Blu-ray sales. So this is just Blu-ray. Given its divisive nature, it's likely that all collectors purchase the sales drop rapidly in comparison to other Star Wars movies. Because a lot of people are probably just buying it to complete the set.
That's what I do.
Obviously.
Yeah, Blu-ray sales are one of the very best ways of gauging an audience reaction to a movie, as purchasing a movie after seeing it in theaters is a vote from the consumer's wallet for the quality of the film. Yeah, I wonder how many people are going to wait 2 weeks and find it in the $5 bargain bin.
Wait till Thanksgiving. They'll be giving it. It'll be under $10.
Right. Well, it'll be at McDonald's. Pay an extra $1, get The Last Jedi for free. On Blu-ray and DVD, right? As an example, the first Captain America movie released on Blu-ray to a sales amount of $20,313,189, while the sequel released to sales amounts of, okay, do you think it went up or down?
I think it went up.
Second Captain America movie. What do you say, LP?
Let's go with up.
All right.
It's a bigger movie.
You're both correct. Up by over $2 million. It's $22,358,092. So that's doing the math off the top of my head, $45,000 more, roughly, in rough dollars. So yeah, I think it just shows where the franchise is headed. Now, as Ethan Van Skybird has shown in his videos, you got to treat the two movie lines separate. So you have the episodic 7 and 8 together, and then you have Rogue One and you have Solo. The trends are downward, and they're downward by huge amounts. Now, I've already had some apologists try and slap me around on YouTube and other places, saying, "Well, hey, the Empire, it always drops." Well, Empire was down less than Star Wars, but it wasn't down 60%.
Yeah, it doesn't drop that much.
Right.
Empire was huge, Brian. You remember back in the day?
Oh, I
It was there
remember.
for months.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that's the thing too that is kind of missed. When these movies played back in the 70s and 80s, they were in the theater for months. They'd be on maybe 2 screens at most, because you didn't have these 15-screen cineplexes. No, I was living on a military base for Empire, and Return of the Jedi, and there was only one theater, so you might get the thing playing over a weekend, and it wouldn't be every showing. And I remember in '83 we were at Fort Ritchie, Maryland, and we went down. I thought it was called the Hagerstown Mall, but it's really called the Valley Mall. And I think that back then it was only 3 or 4 screens. They recently, I was looking at it today because I was trying to figure out how far it was. It was about 45-minute drive from where we lived. And that was the closest movie theater that had, decent screen. I saw Tron there. So imagine driving almost an hour. Now, granted, I lived up in the mountains of Maryland, so it's not like I lived, in a big metropolis. Here in Cincinnati, my goodness, if I drive an hour, I don't know how many movie theaters I can hit. A dozen, maybe more. Each of them with, a bazillion screens. And, we went and saw Empire Strikes Back. Return of the Jedi, rather. My mom, my dad, and I. My brother was at camp. I think he was at church camp or something. But again, I saw all 3 of these movies as a family experience, and my parents liked them. They've probably seen parts of the prequels by now. Their grandkids liked them when they were little.
I saw Empire with my grandparents.
Oh wow!
They loved it. Yeah, they loved it.
So these movies were not geared, like I have been saying numerous times, they were not geared towards little kids. And I think that was one of many mistakes Lucas made. He started to make it with Jedi, and we definitely made it with the prequels, that these are aimed at 6-year-olds or something. Even the toys aren't aimed at kids that young. I mean, my goodness, the toys in the 70s, they had choking hazards, because you remember those little lightsabers, Eric, that you could pull out and stuff. And
Oh yeah. Big time. Poke your eye out.
Choke on them. I mean, they were for young kids, but we're talking probably 9, 10, 11 years old. I think some of those toys too said not for kids under 12 or under 10, because by the time you get like the Millennium Falcon, that's a pretty big, because you could put 2 of those action figures in the cockpit.
Oh hell yeah. Back in the day, the original Millennium Falcon, it was awesome.
And I've seen them in some. There's a store on Short North in Columbus that's got some of those vintage toys, and I never saw one as a kid, but a few years ago when my wife and I walked up there at MatsuriCon on Sunday, I couldn't believe how big that thing was. They had like 3 of them hanging from the ceiling.
Yep. I wish I still had my original one, man.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I mean, this store was packed with stuff. You had to walk sideways in the aisles.
Well, Lucas, not to get off on
go.
the subject, but Lucas, he's even said it when he created Star Wars. He wanted, yes, it was aimed for children, but it was to teach young children about morality, and it was good versus evil, and it was made for families. Anybody could go see Star Wars, whether you were 5 years old, 50 years old. It was a fun movie, and this is the problem with the new movies. They're getting too preachy. People don't want to hear that shit. They just want to go see a movie and be entertained and bring their kid to a movie and not have to explain, feminism and, inclusivity and all that crap. It's a wrong movie to be doing that shit with. And these people at Lucasfilm obviously have an agenda, and they're not trying to stay true to what George Lucas created and what he continued to try to do. Even in the prequels, he was, he still was, those seeds were still planted,
I mean, you're right about the whole morality thing, because just look at the ending of Empire. How does what is essentially the big win at the end of Empire? That Luke redeems Darth Vader. He redeems his dad. You know, the battle between good and evil has been won. It's over and done with. And you know, it went a step further. You could even say that that was more of a not only just redemption but also forgiveness. You know, giving the dad for all the crimes he committed and everything on his I can't say everybody will forgive Darth Vader, but Luke at least did. No, these
And
are
that's
basic.
why. I'm sorry, LMP. Go ahead.
No, I was just basically going to say these are basic moral things that they used to teach me as a kid. You know, I wasn't a big Star Wars fan, and I'm not going to lie, I kind of wish I was now because there was a lot of stuff I missed out on Star Wars wise that nowadays either would have been great to say, hey, look, I had this when this came out. I feel really ungrateful for not keeping some of the stuff that was given to me Star Wars wise. I had an encyclopedia of Star Wars that my godparents one time gave me, but I wasn't into Star Wars, so I never bothered to keep it or take good care of it. And you know, these are stories that I'll lament for another time. But you know, I was a big fan. But even then, when I did watch the movies, I always got this sense of good and evil. You know, right from wrong.
Yep.
And I don't understand why is it that nowadays we have to demonize that type of storytelling, which is as basic as time itself.
Because it's meant for families, LMP, and the left don't want that. The left does not want the traditional family unit. They don't want that shit.
It doesn't have to necessarily be a traditional family unit, which is the problem with their whole ideology, in my opinion. It's like, what is it you consider that's their problem. Like, they want to harm. They're so busy and focused about, oh, family can mean anything. I'm like, well, yeah, so family can mean anything. But even then, if anything can be a family, even then, you still follow things like morality. You still follow things like forgiveness, redemption, and all that other crap. That's what family units are for. So their whole message of this whole, oh, we're against the tradition, their whole like thing about being traditional family roles basically means that then there can no, if you're against family roles in general, then you're just against family, period.
Well, for instance, LMP. Look at, like you had said about Luke redeeming his father, right?
Yes.
There's a message in it. It's a family message, right? Well, look at The Last Jedi. They totally flipped that message. Instead of trying to save his nephew, Luke was going to kill his nephew. Luke saw the good in his father, who was 1,000 times more evil than Kylo Ren could ever fucking dream of being. Killed more people, caused more pain and suffering than Kylo Ren could even imagine. And yet Luke, he could see the good in his father, who he barely knew. But yet his nephew, who I'm assuming he did know very well, he wanted to kill him. I mean,
that's terrible. I mean, let me give you an example. You want to talk about like evil and redemption and stuff like that? To give you an example from comics, what was it? I would say something maybe like 10 years ago. There was this whole trend in comics where like famous comic book characters suddenly started having like long lost children. Iron Man had a lost son. Batman had a son. Hulk had a son, and specifically Wolverine found out that he had a long lost son that he thought was dead. And one of the things about his son was that his son was a mixed race child, growing up in a very traditional Japanese culture. He wasn't really favored as much. The adopted mother really hated him, specifically out of the fact that he was a half-breed, so to speak. And, when it became evident that he had mutant powers, that was just even the icing on the cake. And take a good guess what kind of powers he had. But what happened is this kid in the Wolverine, I think he was introduced in the Wolverine Origins comic series, when Wolverine realizes this is a very bloodthirsty type of individual. Let's make a brief joke about pansexuality here. You want to talk about someone who weaponized sex. He didn't care who he had sex with, if he was with men or women. He used it as a means to get ahead in life or survive in life or get what he wanted, whether it was with women or men. In one instance, I think he killed his quote-unquote girlfriend just so that he could have a place to live. And then he had sex with a male shield agent just so he could infiltrate it. So you're talking about somebody who was very bloodthirsty, very cunning. And yet, despite all this, despite Wolverine knowing that this child was, like, his adult son is very troubled, very violent, very aggressive and everything, at no point did Wolverine ever say, I want to kill my son, or I have to kill him. There was even a storyline where that kind of spun off a little bit during this era, where the same son ends up killing Frank Castle in the comics. And Frank Castle comes back as a Frankenstein thanks to the monsters in the Marvel Universe. I actually think I have those comics somewhere. I really enjoyed that story, and I think I have it somewhere. But what ends up happening is there's a scene where in the rematch, as Frankencastle, as it was called, is about to kill Wolverine's son, and which I forget to mention. By the way, his name was Daken, Daken. He's about to kill this character, and Wolverine steps in saying, "No, I cannot allow you to kill my son." This is Wolverine. This is Wolverine. Somebody who, like he said, he is the best at what he does, which is killing. Saying to another man who basically what he does best is kill, I cannot allow you to kill my son. I don't care how bad of a person he is, how evil he is. Let me try to save my son. I cannot allow you to do that. It probably speaks volumes about Wolverine's character, that whole storyline. Like how much he really, like, this is his only family, one of his only family, and how much he goes up to bat for it. I don't understand why stuff like this has to be thrown under the rug just for some dumb narrative, which, by the way, just shoot themselves in the foot pretty quickly.
I mean, just look at what they've done with all the old characters. They broke them down and turned them into pieces of shit.
Agreed. It's true.
You know, turn Han into a deadbeat dad. You know, Leia, they didn't really break her down, but they just took a lot of the fight out of her. You know, the spunk. You know, look at Luke. They turned Luke into a broken old man. It's like, wow, these are the heroes of the rebellion? Or you turned them into cowards? Like, why? Why would you do that? There's got to be a reason for it.
Yeah.
They can't just be simply shitty storytelling.
Well, I think it's a combination of all. They don't know how to tell a story. Plus, they seem to have, you know, I don't know if it's against Lucas personally, but there seems to be a vendetta of some sort, whether it's against the patriarchy or, you know, American values or Lucas, I mean, or all of it, right? When you look at in 77, now I sort of remember what it was like. It was at the beginning, kind of in the middle of the oil crisis, and we really didn't hit that till really late 79 when we started having gas shortages and stuff. But under Carter, I know the military morale was pretty horrid. We
it was really bad.
We had a lot of stuff. You know, he cut huge cuts in the military. Eventually, we get the Iran hostages and everything. We tried to do a rescue, but because he'd been, you know, gutting the military for several years, we had problems with helicopters and everything else. And that was a little bit, you know, it was a little to come, but the start of the misery index and all that stuff was in 77. And we had the Vietnam War was fresh on people's minds. I think we left Saigon in 75. It didn't save, you had Watergate earlier in the 70s. You had Ford took over when Nixon resigned, I think 74, something like that. 76 you had 76 you had an election, and you had the 1776 200 year bicentennial and all that. But and Star Wars wasn't the only movie that was positive and had this feel that people needed, but it was just in many ways what the country needed at the time, and in some ways it was a movie that it deserved as well. So it kind of lifted spirits. Plus it captured the hearts and minds of young people like myself and Eric, and even into mid-teens, well, and even older. I mean, there were a lot of nerds and things, people that saw that were in their 20s, and it's almost like the new movies are aimed at taking that apart. So the Force Awakens, this is where you get the the cucking out of Han Solo. He's not the macho. I mean, I know he's an old man, I get it, but look at what was the name of the movie? In some ways, Zorro the Gay Blade is actually a good example where
I haven't seen that.
you have Zorro who's retiring and he finds a new apprentice. Now, it's more in some ways more of a spoof, but I thought there was another Zorro movie too where they did that.
It's actually a good movie.
Yeah. Oh no, it is. Is that
George Hamilton?
George Hamilton, yeah. But you had movies that had, we've had movies in the past where some figure, we'll say some hero or whatever, was passing the mantle. And to have, you can't have Harrison Ford run around, what is he, 70 or 80, being the Han Solo from the 70s and 80s, but you can have an older man with dignity, especially considering the story arc that he has. And then Leia's a little bit undermined in the first one. I think she's definitely undermined in the second one. I'm not sure what they turn her into, but she has a line in that bunker near the end of the movie, something like, in the end we fought, but we ran out of hope, or something like that, which is the complete antithesis of A New Hope. As well, and they do make a deal about that in Rogue One. They say hope so many times it gets sickening. But, you think back to that first movie, and she's trying to get to Obi-Wan because she believes her only hope to fight against. Now, exactly what she thought he was going to do with the Death Star, plans, I don't know. But she basically, she was going to bring Obi-Wan to Alderaan.
To Alderaan. Yeah.
So... maybe he as a general, because you were general, fought with my father in the Clone Wars, and of course with the prequels, Lucas kind of undoes a lot of that because her father's more of a diplomat, not a soldier. So you have kind of like this undoing of, in many ways, the original movie. We really haven't got. They've done some elements from Empire and Return of the Jedi, but they haven't really screwed those movies over like they have A New Hope. That's kind of in many ways the sad part. They seem, and I don't know if this is Disney. It feels like it's Disney because that's A New Hope is the only movie they don't have rights to. 20th Century Fox had distribution rights, but that first movie they own outright. That may be why they're trying. It just feels like it's like this is Disney's modus operandi anymore to get things and make them on their own image, and they have to reboot. And they're trying, this is why I think we're getting all these prequel movies. And Jeff and the guys even talked about it, I think it was this past week or the last week, where it's like, okay, we're going to get all these in-between movies, and then we'll get something that, the adventures of, so it'll be like right after A New Hope or maybe the same time, it's like...
They don't have a cohesive plan.
I think the plan is just destroy the old.
Well, they're doing a good job.
And right, and I don't think they're doing a good job. I think they're trying to destroy. All they're doing is shooting themselves in the foot. I don't
even know how to burn the books.
I don't have a problem like Jeff has to watch. I can watch the new trilogy, the old trilogy, and the new trilogy doesn't bother me. I don't care that.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
It's like 7 is an aberration. It's not real. It doesn't detract that I know because it's not Han. It's not Luke. It's Jake Skywalker. It's Mark Solo or Jeff Solo.
So the only reason why we'll need to anchor is because there's a storm.
Oh, he's going again.
Damn it. What else can? Oh, there he is.
Because I think
I don't know how to pump up.
Go, Eric. Talk.
All right.
Oh.
Shut up. Stop talking.
He has to stop doing this.
Listen, we're gonna have to anchor anyway because
Listen, it's California. You're out of water, not out of internet service. All right.
Is it clearer now?
Yes.
All right, I'm back. No, I was just saying, I don't think J.J. Abrams was going to turn Luke into the coward that he was in The Last Jedi. I think he was going to have Luke be kind of like a reluctant master. I think she was going to have to win him over. I think what happened in The Last Jedi, that was all Ryan Johnson. I don't think J.J. wanted to go.
Honestly, we should anchor.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, and if that's true, why doesn't he rein in JJ? He's the executive producer. He has creative control. He can say, no, we're not doing that movie. He could have written the script and say, hey, these guys. I mean, Lucas wrote parts. He wrote. I know he wrote and direct the prequels, but I think the original. I don't remember how much he wrote, but Empire and Jedi, he gave guidance on the story and approval.
Well, JJ,
but he didn't write them, as well as didn't direct them.
Treatment for 8 and 9, and it was just chucked. Yeah.
Right.
But he was saying that he did write a treatment for 8 and 9, and that they just didn't use it. They went off on their own thing.
Well, I think they did 7, 8, 9, and Jar Jar Abrams even talks about that in one of the interviews. He said, unfortunately, at some point we had to say goodbye to Lucas and do our own thing. And I'm like, that's when you made your first mistake, because these are still his characters in the hearts and minds of people. And the whole point was, Kennedy saying that we're going to protect them and we're going to take care of them and we're going to treat them, and then they don't. And this is why it feels it's like all those things that I stated all wrapped into one. It's a personal vendetta against Lucas from Kennedy. It's an SJW stabbing at the so-called patriarchy. It's this concept that we can't have heroes that are larger than life. They have to be these scumbag, under the dirt, except for the females who can't get injured and have no flaws.
It'd be like taking over for, being a showrunner of a new Star Trek show, or being brought in to produce and write a new Star Trek movie. Yes, you have to make it your own and modernize it, but you have to pay respect to the origins and the guidelines that Gene Roddenberry originally created for what Star Trek was and is.
Right. Which they didn't do with the movies or the new series.
No. I've just saw the one episode. I haven't seen the rest of the series.
Yeah. Well, Roddenberry was, he was very, his vision of the future was very positive. And, when you look at the bridge, he did choose the cast as a diversity, but for him, it was in his mindset of the future. Number one, we don't have greed is that's why they don't have money and stuff, which, how does that work? But the concept was these people were there on one of the flagship ships of the Starfleet because they were deemed the best. It didn't matter that one was a Vulcan and one was a black woman and one was an Asian man. I forget. There was Chekhov on there first, and then I think Sulu was there first. I think Chekhov came in another season.
Chekhov came in like in the second season.
Right, and that was added because we were in the Cold War with Russia, and it's like, look, in the future, we're not. This concept is we're going out as a united Earth into the cosmos to push and this is why you have the Prime Directive, not to get involved and not to, and I think that stems from what we did in Korea, what we were starting to do in Vietnam. Well, we had already started. So in some ways that was a critique of the Vietnam War, in the 60s. But it was in many ways kind of the Monroe Doctrine, right? We were going to interfere we're going to interfere in our hemisphere, leave Europe to be Europe, right? Let them solve their own problems. We're not going to go invade Europe to enforce democracy on them. Which we know, but that's what we do now, right? We invade countries to so-called nation build. It's like it's not our job to nation build.
Nope.
So our job is
peacekeepers.
Our job is to proselytize the concept of liberty and individual freedom, and let those seeds germinate where they are. Some countries, it's going to be like seed, to pull out of the New Testament. Some of the seed falls on the rock, and some of it falls on sand, and some of it falls in the thorn bushes, and some of it falls on good soil. And those areas where it falls on good soil, let the people rise up. We can help them, but we sure should not go in and invade their country. And we do it. We do it through, other things. And I'm way off topic now, but we destabilize governments all the time.
Yep.
The CIA does all the time. Some of them overtly, sometimes covertly. And it's like, that's not our job. Our job is to be a beacon of example of liberty in the world and shine that light everywhere we can to sow the seeds of liberty in other countries, but not to force it. Because it takes a mindset to want that kind of government. When you force it on people who don't want it, you get despots. What you want?
Have you ever seen that documentary, Confession of an Economic Hitman?
No, I don't think so.
Very, very interesting. This dude, I think his last name, I think it was Perkins. He's on the book that he wrote. Man, I tell you fucking hell. Listen to what this guy's got to say about how his job is going to a country, basically find the leader, find the president, the dictator, whatever, and basically tell them, this is how you're going to play ball. If you don't play ball, first thing we're going to do is we're going to destabilize your country. And then if that doesn't work, we'll take you out. And this guy's like we did it all over the world.
Oh yeah, we have definitely, in many ways, we kind of sort of started between the world wars, but since World War II, this is all we've been doing. It's just ridiculous.
Yep.
Hey, you guys need to chat amongst yourselves because I got to get one of the dogs out.
No worries.
All right.
So,
Hopefully
Eric,
it won't stop recording. So I'll be as quick as I can, but I will mute.
So, Eric, since we're basically given free reign of the show and opportunity to ruin it.
Yes, sir.
I was hoping Blake would say something about that. But speaking of DVDs, you know that Death Wish came out this week, right?
Oh, it did? No shit.
Yeah, I know. It pisses me off because
I didn't know that, man.
I didn't even know about it until I started checking Amazon to purchase the steelbook of the original.
Oh.
And what happened was I saw that it was like, oh, it's going to come out this week. I was like, wait, this movie got so shafted by the media, it got shafted by TV, by advertisers and everything because of the whole, guns can be useful or guns can be used to protect message. And it's like, it's a very anti-PC, very, very, you could almost argue somewhat right-wing in ways, red-pilled. But I'm excited for its release. Like, I really want to buy the movie. I'm just upset that it should have a steelbook edition, but it's not going to get one. I feel like it's not going to happen.
I'm not sure. I love that line. No, who are you? Or I'm the ice cream man. Who are you? Your last customer. Dude, man, his homies fucking ran so fast they could have been track stars.
Oh,
fucking
shit.
great.
Well, we just lost out on our advertising.
Come on, was that not a great scene or what, man?
Oh my God, that whole movie from start to finish was just like a slow build. Like the beginning was like a slow build. Like, all right, we know something bad is gonna happen. If you haven't seen the movie already, you know something bad is gonna happen. You just don't know when. And
Dude, I don't know about you, but were you thinking his brother might have been involved? I was thinking his brother.
Yes, I was thinking that
for cash and shit, him being in debt. I was thinking that he had hired those guys to go in there and steal Bruce's shit.
I thought that thankfully it wasn't that at the end because it was like, damn, you're making it too predictable.
Yeah.
Like you're making it way too predictable, and that's not what Death Wish was about. But thankfully they didn't get to that point. Maybe they thought of it and then they realized, no, we can't do that because that would be essentially going against what Death Wish was about. Because Death Wish wasn't so much about like, hey, this was something that happened close to home because it was a family member. This was happened close to home because look at the shit environment we live in, and nobody's really doing anything about it.
I was just really shocked, man, that they were getting into these inner cities with the gun-free zones and the amount of violence, and I was just really shocked that the producers of the film wanted to go in that direction because they knew by doing that you're going to piss a lot of people off in the liberal media, and they were not going to promote the movie because it was pro-gun,
It really was because again, the whole thing. If you watch it from the beginning, like when Paul Kersey finally picks up the gun the first time, he acquired that gun illegally, right?
Yep.
So essentially, he was out as a vigilante with an illegal pistol and everything. You could even see the parallels to the original movie because remember where he got the gun in the original film. It was a gift given to him.
By that dude.
Yeah, I think it was his name. Damn, I forgot his name. I'm a terrible fan for not knowing this.
Well, when
But
you watched it, did you pick up like it was symbolic? He was mild mannered and meek, and then he got the gun, and he started protecting people, and then he became empowered. I mean, there was a message there.
yeah, the message is simple. Listen. The message to me was like the moment he picked up the gun, that he was the vigilante. He was doing it for a just cause and everything, but he was also getting in way over his head. Something that does happen in the original. Like he became empowered, but he was also getting way over his head. To the point that that's why I think the brother. I think this is one of the few changes that I did like about the movie was that his brother said, "Listen, what is this? This is not you. You shouldn't be doing this. You got to abandon this. Never do this again." And I think it got to Paul Kersey at that point where he's like, he's right. At what point do I stop being the vigilante? At what point do I stop being the protector, vigilante that's just doing the right thing? And I start becoming, like, again, the character they named him, they called him the Grim Reaper. That's what they actually called him in the movie. Like, at one point does he start becoming more of a Grim Reaper? He just kills indiscriminately. So that's where the movie goes a little more pro-gun, where it's like, hey, he goes to the Jolly Roger. He asks for Bethany. He asks for a gun. Now he's legally acquired these weapons. He's, they can, even like the way he plans it out and everything is kind of like, even the cops are like, you know what? It works enough for me. That's enough for all I need to hear. It's a legal gun. They came into your home. They were criminals from before. You just so happened to have shot them all. And again, it was so badass how he killed all of them.
Yep.
And again, the message
that they kept
the responsible gunner
with with him, looking down. In this case, it was him looking down, the street, as opposed to Charles Bronson looking down the gateway or whatever in the airport. But with cocking the gun, with his hand, that was awesome, man.
Hell yeah! I was like, you brought. Wait, we're gonna take part 2 in New York City. I am down. Please. You have so much to work with a Death Wish 2 in New York City.
Well, I think it did. I think the movie did pretty well. It had a small budget.
Yeah,
I haven't looked at the numbers, but I think it did pretty well.
All right. I mean, all things considered, I knew it wasn't going to break records or anything like that because, let's face it, it just had that much against it. But it was a nice callback, not only to just like the revenge movies, the action movies. It was a nice callback to the rated R films. It was a nice callback to like Bruce Willis. When Bruce Willis was a badass, when movies weren't 2 fucking hours long and nothing but fluff. It was just, let's get to the point and let's just start.
And it was great when he tortured that asshole in the body shop. Oh, it was fucking awesome, man. It was brutal.
And does his character feel like an asshole? That's another thing that I like about the movie. Like, it stays true to the Kersey character. Where Paul Kersey is like, yes, he is killing people, but there's like a very sympathetic reason why he's killing people. Yeah. His whole thing is that they've messed with him, and he's just simply out to get revenge. Now, if there's anybody else along the way, he just so happens to take down along the way, it's usually somebody that is actively getting in his way or somebody that's actively out to kill him. Notice how like in that movie, like if I had to make the call back to the original Death Wish, the Bronson one, like when he was in the subway stations, yes, he was out to get the criminals and such. But notice how most of those criminals were people that were going to act out on I guess you can call it their instincts anyways. Like they saw him, they saw that he looked unarmed and everything, and they followed him. Like the first kill that he performs, that's how it happened. He was with the gun, he was walking out in the streets, but this guy actually like crept up from behind and he's like, give me your money. He had a knife out, and you could see the fear in Paul Kersey's eyes. Like he goes from being the pacifistic individual to somebody who's just fearing for his life.
Yep.
And it's kind of like the same thing in this movie. When what was it? His first kill was the.
It was the carjacking.
Well, what happened?
It was the carjacking. Remember?
The carjacking, right? Like he was out on the roll, on a stroll and everything, and it was like, hey, stop what you're doing. And it was like, ah, shit, I'm gonna die for being a good guy. But he's like, wait a second, I have a gun. Let me at least try to save myself. And he sure enough did.
And it
And
was
what
cool
was it?
too and you saw he didn't know what he was doing, dude. He stumbled into it,
Exactly. Like, again, for some people that say that, oh, it was a terrible remake and everything, I'm like, rewatch both films. Watch the first one first, the original, and then watch this one after.
Yeah, he's the same kind of character, except he's not an architect. He's a doctor, but he's the same type of character.
Yeah, he's a character. There are changes, and I think those changes were necessary. The story is like, listen, it could be a different age. Things may have changed. There's social media now, but he is still essentially the same character. He's basically that character that's living in the world. He's basically us. Anybody could be like Percy at any point in their life. Like to what was it? The Joker. I think the Joker famously said something about, all it takes is one bad day. Well, he had his bad day, and it just so happens on his bad day he wanted revenge. He just wanted revenge for the death of his wife and what ended up happening to his daughter. Now, granted, the remake does not go as far with what happened with the daughter as the original did, but I think the message got across pretty well anyways. I mean, at one point I was like, damn, are they going to actually show that on the screen right now? I think people are going to lose their shit and might even walk out if they see it. And credit to Eli Roth, because I saw the previous movie months after this Death Wish came out, right? I saw the previous movie he made, Green Inferno. He really watch that movie. It's a gore film about like a bunch of activists that go into the Amazon rainforest because they want to save the trees, and they end up finding themselves face to face with a bunch of cannibals that really don't give a shit about their bullshit. And it's like, damn, he went far with some stuff in that movie. He really did. But it's like in Death Wish, it's like, damn, like I think he did pull a punch, but at the same time, it didn't feel like he pulled it really. It was more like he was a little more strategic. It's like, all right, I'm not gonna go as far as they did in the original, but I'm gonna go far enough to the point it's like Bronson could, like at that point, not Bronson, I'm talking about Bruce Willis at that point could do no wrong. And credit to Eli Roth. I really am not a big fan of his movies, but definitely enjoy Green Inferno. I would recommend it if you're not too squeamish about gore and cannibalism. But definitely Death Wish, he did a great job. And, I went into it worried, thinking that, crap, this is going to be just another bullshit remake. And no, blew my expectations away. And I've seen a total of 5 movies in theaters so far this year. Anything that's been released this year. It stands as my number 2 movie, only behind Infinity War. I don't know if you feel the same way, but damn it, I really love Death Wish.
Hey, you're not talking to yourself. Erik went into Chipotle, so.
God damn it, Erik.
Oh, hey, we know where he is now.
Dude, I found some
So, yeah, I came in for the last little bit of that. I thought you guys were talking about Death Wish, and then you said it, so. I thought the rain was over, and then it thundered again, and one of the dogs took off. The German Shepherd took off running for the hills, so I had to chase her down. She didn't like the thunder.
I don't blame the poor guy.
Her. It's a she. It's Ellie dog. She's the German Shepherd. So, so are you done with that topic or what? Or are you waiting for Erik going to respond here in a minute?
No, I'm not done with this topic. Let's me talk. I'm fucking around. I wasn't gonna do this to you. I know you haven't even seen the movie, so why would I even?
That's fine.
Put you in this picture?
Well, I wanted to. So let's chat a little bit, and when Erik gets back on, because I want to talk to him about Solo, because I think he liked it at least somewhat. So let's go on to another topic for the minute, and then we'll come back. So Ethan Van Skybird, which is how I'm going to refer to him. That's Cecil's niece referred to him, and so I'm always referring to him as Skybird. Speaking of which, Cecil, I did reach out to him via Twitter to see if he ever wanted to be on here. I said, hey, man, check this Fancast out, and if you want to be on, let me know. I think it would be neat to have him on, at least for a little bit. So,
I responded.
huh?
I think I responded to that tweet.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what he had to say.
Yep. He said he'd check it out and let me know. So we'll see. So Ethan started a GoFundMe for Cyberfrog. I think it's a GoFundMe or Indiegogo or whatever. I think it was Indiegogo. And then somebody tried to rip him off with a GoFundMe fake page, trying to spoon. I mean, people are trying to derail this independent effort, right, left, right, and center. It's ridiculous. It really shows that they don't want the competition of ideas. That really, really shows that. And we don't want people making their own decisions. That's crazy.
Competition's a sin.
Yeah. Well, free thinkers, and what I think is funny is back in the 90s, because I used to run into people who are so-called liberals who always complain about conservatives, especially Christian conservatives or religious conservatives who are always saying, they're keeping our ideas down. It's like, no, we're not. They weren't. It's just your ideas of communism, socialism were garbage, and we knew they were garbage. But there was nobody censoring you. There might be calls for a boycott or something like that here and there, but they weren't pulling people off the air because they were expressing communist ideas, and they weren't getting them fired because they said one thing. But my goodness, if you even smell conservative and you say one wrong tweet, boy, you're out of a job.
Exactly. Actually, now that you mentioned the whole communist thing, Razorfist did a great video a couple days back about like the whole influence of communism in Hollywood and how the whole McCarthyism thing that we know about, like him bringing the doing the communist witch hunts and the trials and everything, is like that's a myth that is told through history just to kind of like demonize him. It's like a very entertaining, but like Razorfist is really entertaining, like in his content. I would definitely recommend watch some of his older stuff. And he has a very more like, I would say, can't really say objective because everybody has a little bit of bias in it, but he keeps it to the facts. And this one particular, he even goes as far as like quoting actual things that were said by certain actors in Hollywood and all that other stuff. So definitely check out that video because it's very enlightening just about how deep rooted the communism not only is in Hollywood and entertainment, but also how they themselves have spun this narrative that everybody else is trying to censor them when they themselves were the ones that were actively censoring and even blacklisting actors that went against them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What it comes down to is these they only want tolerance for their ideas. They don't want tolerance. Just
not tolerance. It's not even tolerance for their ideas. What it is they want acceptance of their ideas. They don't want you to like. It's because tolerate. The way I look at it is like this. To me, I know it probably has an official definition that contradicts what I'm saying. The way I look at tolerance is like this. Tolerance doesn't mean that you have to like somebody's ideas, that you have to like them, that you have to accept them. It's more of just putting up with it. That's it. You're just acknowledging that it exists, that it and as long as it's not committing any major crimes, so what? That's just tolerance. It's nothing to me in my eyes. Tolerance doesn't mean that you're just accepting it and that means you are supportive. No, it's just like I tolerate people who are
you're dealing with petulant children. When they don't get what they want, or if you don't do what they want, they throw a fucking temper tantrum. That's all it is, man.
But unfortunately, they're in charge.
I know.
Well, unfortunately, that's right.
All right. Well, and that's when
I think that there is going to be. I'm sorry, Brian. I was going to say. I think it's going to come around again. I think people are going to get tired of it.
Right. Well, this is how we end up with a over-nationalistic approach, and this is part of what you're seeing in Europe, where you're getting some of these you've had this unfettered. They call it immigration. It's not really immigration. It's invasion. But the state has run it, and whether or not the Bilderberg Group is behind it, and I know Soros is behind it because they've traced some of the money to him, and the German government was sending boats out in the Mediterranean and pumping people into Italy against international law. And
he's an admitted Nazi sympathizer.
Oh, I know, and how he was never brought up on trial. I mean, they were anyway. I've said that before. I mean, the Hamas, not Hamas. What was the
He said he was proud of what he did. He
Right.
was proud.
Well, and Israel had this, task force that was hunting down guys that were, security guards, and they fled to like Canada or something. And these guys, in their 70s, he ended up being on trial. It was just ridiculous. And then you have Soros, who should have, he should have been in the Nuremberg trials.
Big time.
And
I heard that should be true.
yeah, but you have this concept that tolerance, and if you don't tolerate, because really it's not tolerance so much as you accept the person, but you don't tolerate their behavior. And they started framing that as a personal attack, and that you were basically personally showing no value for them. And that's kind of where it started to swing the pendulum the other way. But the problem is, it's like we don't want the pendulum to swing back the other way. I don't want to, I find very, very little difference between the socialists, communists, and fascists. I've even said this. I even have a video from years ago when I said they're all, socialism's at the point of tyranny, and to the left of it's communism, and to the right of it's fascism, but it's all still the arrow of tyranny.
It's all
and it's like, because you swing the pendulum, it's more of a circle, really. You just kind of swing it back the other way, and it goes all the way back. And when you bump up against the side, to the other side, it's like so-called right. I don't want this highly nationalistic, be suspicious of everybody that looks a little different than you, and but that's the kind of response you're going to get when if people aren't tempered in their responses. Now, it does warm my heart a bit that the alt-right and the KKK and all that are not accepted either by those of us in the middle. We get the likes of Jordan Peterson, who's a liberal, speaking out, with actual scientific studies and data. Right, this is not his personal opinion. This is what psychology shows. It's based on research. It's not based on, hey, I'm gonna push my own agenda. And he's even saying,
Michael Eric Dyson. Have you seen?
No.
Oh, it's YouTube it, man. It is some interesting conversations. I do not like Michael Eric Dyson. That guy's too blowhard, man.
Now, are you talking about the debate where it's like, it's not Stephen Fry? Oh yeah, Stephen Fry and
yeah, there's like 4 people on the
right.
panel.
Yeah, I started watching that, but I was so bored with it. Yeah, Dyson's a buffoon.
He
ends
up calling Peterson basically an angry white man.
Right.
And Jordan just has this look like you have to be kidding me. You did not just call me that.
Right. Well, when you get to name calling, you've lost the argument. I mean, you lose a debate when you start name calling. Period. And and if you start by name calling, then you've really lost, because you've lost the audience as well as the the debate. But I listened to the opening arguments of that, and when that lady was speaking, I had to skip forward. I was like, I can't even. Her stance is so mired in stupidity that it's like hurts my brain to listen to either of them. It's like you have sort of have feelings, and name calling is all you've got. You have no facts, you have no statistics, you have no research, and Jordan Peterson does, and he has years of it. So, to try and people are trying to label him alt-right and all this other nonsense, and he's like, he's not even classic liberal. He's liberal. He's like modern day liberal, but his brain works, and you can see the destruction that's happening with society, but he's still a big government guy. Right. He's into social programs and all that other stuff, but he's not into, the endless stupidity that we now have going. So, but yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one to find, LNP, if you want to sit through it. It's hard to sit through, though. At least I found it hard to sit through. If they were making intellectual arguments on both sides, it's a completely different story. But one side is just completely in stupidity and name calling and feelings. I couldn't take it anymore.
Well, that's the thing with like any debate and argument. It's like it's really hard to detach your feelings from it. Like even the most seasoned of debaters could probably get a little emotional and little.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have that. But when your whole argument is that, it really defeats. So Eric is at home. Eric, did you got anything you want to say? Or are you having to clock out, or what's the deal?
Moving on.
Okay.
Yeah, but the whole thing I was
got
just trying to
screaming
get
kids
at
here, so.
All right, man.
Oh,
So I will be exiting stage left.
All right. Well, we'll be wrapping up anyway. Go ahead.
Please pray for me.
Hey, Huckleberry, huh?
2 toddlers on loose.
Okay. All right.
All right, guys. Have a great night. LMP, I'll hit you up later about Death Wish.
Oh, definitely.
All right, man. You guys take it easy.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Should make a joke about little SOBs, but I don't know if he's still on the line.
Well, he's still listed as connected, so he hasn't hung up yet. And I don't think.
Well, that'll take care of the little SOBs.
Nah,
Yeah.
you got to
Nothing
enjoy
but
it
love
when you're
her.
young. Before you know it, you'll be older. I don't know how he has the energy, man. I mean, my kids are older, and I'm just 2 years older than he is. And it was hard enough when I was in my 30s. I can't imagine being in my 40s raising little kids.
Oh, man. I better start soon then.
So.
But anyways, enough about my life. What was it? Something about debating and feelings you were talking about, right?
Well, what I was saying, when you're in a debate, and this is, this was what's interesting, because I've actually witnessed this in firsthand when with Jeff says how he likes to win arguments, but it's amazing how quickly he gets into bullying on his arguments. You got to stay with the facts. As soon as you get into, it's one thing to be emotional and show some emotion about something for something you really believe in, but when your entire argument's based on, well, you're stupid and that's stupid and you're wrong, it's very hard to be persuasive. And that's when I listen to those open arguments about on the video that Erik was talking about. It's amazing. The audience isn't even with these people. They're trying to bait the audience. They're trying to pull the audience in, but because they have nothing to engage, they don't have actual information and facts. They have name call. They have ad hominems. Even Stephen Fry kind of pokes back at Dyson because he brings up slavery because he happens to be a black guy, and you're talking. Stephen Fry is Jewish by heritage. There is I think it's a Who Do You Think You Are episode where he traces some of his Jewish lineage back into Germany, and some of the people that escaped, some of them literally just in time. And I think it's his. You talk about emotional. I think it's on his. I don't think it's Jerry Springer's. I'm pretty sure it's his. Where is it? Stephen Fry? I want to say that name's not right, because there's also an American comedian. I thought his name is Stephen Fry, but anyway, he traces back to this building, and it is Stephen Fry. They have a plaque on the outside, and they list all these names, and some of them are like uncles and cousins of his that didn't make it out, and he just loses it. But he's so grateful that the people that at some point that lived there placed this plaque on the entrance for the people who were arrested by the Nazis that were living there that were Jewish that, never were heard from again. So he's Jewish, being British too. So, they were under slaves with the Muslims, Jews under slaves with Africans, and he's gay. So it was kind of like, if you're going to start playing the oppression card, he had a comeback and in spades, and it was great because it was like, if we're going to start, looking at the oppression Olympics, he might win. So, and that's not an argument, and that's part of what he even said. This is not the argument. This is not what we're talking about. And this was, freedom of speech and expression, and stop this war on men and masculinity, and we need a balance. You look at, there's a lot of women that are miserable because they're they've been kind of trained and taught, you can do this, but it makes an unbalanced life, and their emotions are not fully balanced out. But it is a good, piece. Or I actually found another Jordan Peterson video that I'm just going to listen to. I like listening to him talk because when he goes into the various studies and pieces. And then you realize, he's not some libertarian, small government person. It's just here's the reality of the construct of the human society. That's what he's really getting at. Forget what's the government. Forget this is
you like my videos.
Huh?
So you say you like my videos.
Say who likes your videos?
Ah, damn it. Is it coming off like Kermit the Frog on the other end or not?
No, I didn't know what the heck you were talking about.
Crap. I can't do the voice anymore. Never mind.
Speaking of which, we gotta make sure we give Erik's channel a shout out. I gotta find it.
Oh man, I saw that, but I was gonna completely troll him.
We can still troll
and be
him.
like, I know, but see, he already kind of like spoiled the surprise that he wanted the shout out. I was gonna just like, damn, I know Erik asked me to do something, but what? I just can't remember what it was. Like, and I'm just gonna keep saying it over and over.
Oh, I mean that kind of trolling. I didn't think you were just gonna go on his site as some random person and leave comments.
Oh no, I mean I could always do that, but there's no fun in that unless my heart's in it. So my heart's not in this to troll him just yet. I mean, I troll your comment section every now and then, but
yeah, but you do it yourself, as far as I know.
Yeah, of course. It's just to have fun. It's all good. Okay. It's a good rib.
Unless you're Lapis Anus, because that account shows up every once in a while.
I have no idea. I don't know who that is. And first of all, I don't want to steal gimmicks that wasn't created by me. So
there's that too. Yeah.
It wouldn't be right. Like it basically be like I'm just listen, I already regurgitate the jokes from other sources, but I don't want to like just take them like and pass them off as my own either. I usually try to give them credit when credit's due. But yeah, like I just wanted to troll him, but it's all good. I mean, it's done. It's done.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
well, it's like last night on I don't know what the heck. I was starting to listen, and Dion was on a rant, and he said something about Lapis Anus. What is Lapis Anus saying? And I'm like, I hadn't even made a comment yet. I had just and I'm like, I even put in the chat. What did I say? I was like, what the heck is he on about? And they never came back to it, so I don't know what the heck that was. That was funny.
All I remember was something about dying on the beach, Halo Reach style, and something about Alex Jones and gay frogs.
Yeah, well, see, maybe that's what he was talking about, because Dion wasn't there, but Jeff and Kendo were talking about that on Thursday. I saw they had a chat, and I got on, and then they were talking about things, and that came up, and I was like, I'm not. I mean, I listened to Alex Jones. I wouldn't consider myself a fan. Because quite often I can't stand him. He over dramatizes things. It's kind of like Glenn Beck for the first several years of Obama. Well, if they're going to collapse the dollar, you better get your gold. The whole thing's coming down. And I'm like, okay, Glenn, it's been 8+ years and nothing's happened. But that was actually saying that, and I forgot. I needed to read the article in depth because I can't remember. It's a Berkeley study that he was referencing, but I know it turns male frogs female, but what I don't remember is if they think they're female and they try to court male frogs, or it actually changes them. That's what I don't remember, because if it really changes them, it makes them trans. If it makes them think they're female when they're not, then that does make them gay.
Well, I'm not going to get all into like animal sexuality and all that crap. That's going to get kind of weird. Yeah. But I remember, now that you mentioned this, now that we're talking about this study, I remember I was watching a video series. I forgot the name of the channel, the guy that does the channel, but he actually does a good few videos about, he calls the series Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm pretty sure that's self-explanatory what that means. If not, basically just how far certain things go.
Right.
And one of the things he was referencing was the, that very infamous study. I forgot the name of the study, like about the mice, where this doctor, like he would kind of control the rat population, like the mouse population within his control group, and it ended up doing something like that where the females no longer wanted to take care of the children.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very interesting study. I'll see if I link you the video. I'll send you the video. It's a very interesting thing that was done. But it was like, this is like a very unethical study that he did. And, at one point, like he said, I'm not going to do it anymore. And he still did it behind people's backs. One of the interesting things was that there were like going back to the whole like soy boy thing and the beta males,
Right.
talking about how some of the mice actually became like asexual, not wanting anything to do with procreation, which essentially meant the end of that mouse population.
Right.
But also that some of the male mice wanted to get it on with the alpha males, and the alpha males would accept it. Like, and it was like a very interesting study, like almost mimicking what society itself is like when certain things start just getting out of control.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm gonna look for the link and I'll send it to you in the chat, not the chat, the messenger thing that we do.
Right.
And just check it out if you ever want to. Like, it was a very interesting study, very shocking what he did, and I didn't even realize this, but apparently they made an animated movie that was based on the study, which I may check out just to see what exactly are the parallels to it or not. But nah, that's just topic for another time.
Yeah, I think that part kind of sounded familiar, and there are studies where they'll do things with mice and they'll change sometimes just with the diet, or they'll change hormone distribution, different things, and it's interesting the differences they get, and in some ways explain some of this. Granted, it is mice, and whether it's an analog for humans or not can be debated, but it is interesting. I've also seen some things. There's a guy whose name I'm going to blank on. He's British. He's a scientist of some sort. I forget what. But they started doing various studies with animals where it's almost like there's some kind of group memory, but they're not really sure what it is. And he kind of takes a metaphysical approach to it. So some people think, as soon as they hear metaphysical, if they're strong atheistic, it's like, well, there can't be this thing in the universe, a consciousness, because that's too close to God or religion or whatever, and they get all scared. And they won't admit it. The reason why is if there's something larger than them, then they're upholding to it, and they want to be their own self-governing person and not upholding any strict moral code. Basically, they want to be able to do whatever debauchery they want without any consequences. But they have animals. They've done experiments with certain types of animals that are in different parts of the world. The same like laboratory rats, and they do a maze in one area, and then another. Then they start doing research with that same maze. So they'll set up the same pattern somewhere else. And I think it's mice, will solve it faster somewhere else once it's been solved somewhere in the world. And then they'll do it somewhere else and it's even faster. With that. There's a thing, I think David Icke's even talking about this one, where they'll have chickens who've always been, generations reared indoors, never seen the sky, never seen a bird, and they fly a silhouette of like a crow over them, and they don't flinch. Nothing happens, blah, blah, blah. They fly a silhouette, so there's a shadow in the ground of like a hawk, and they scatter, and they are afraid of this shape, even though they've never seen it, right? They've never seen it. They've never had to survive. And it's like, okay, is there some kind of instinct that's passed down? The
whole nature versus nurture thing.
Right, and this gets into like this, I forget what they call it, this universal consciousness type concept. And they also will say where multiple people will get the same idea or very, very similar idea, very close to one another. Someone will have the idea, they'll work on the idea, maybe they'll perfect it. They won't announce it anywhere. And then all of a sudden it'll pop up 5 or 6 different places all over the world as if that person had been doing those experiments. The idea is as a mature idea, not an inspiration. And where does that come from? And scientists, so-called scientists, will talk about dimensions and other things that they can't figure out where some of the mass of the universe is, so it must be dark matter. Well, then there's talks about dark energy, and now there's talks about I've even seen articles talking about where the other dimensions might be, where some of that mass is, and we can't see it. There's concepts of the electronic universe, and some people will poo-poo it and say it's like there's all these things that happen that are outside of the realm of our current very physical based manifestation. There's wave forms that we can't even see. I mean, you look at visible, like if you look at the spectrum of light, you look where visible light is, it's tiny, tiny, tiny. So that concept in many ways is, well, our understanding and knowledge of the universe is that same small fragment, and yet the universe in its structure is well beyond that. And it could be very well linked to consciousness and everything else. So I think it's a very interesting discussion, because this could, in my mind, this is where I believe the true religions come from. This concept of meekness and charity and love and kindness for your fellow human being, as opposed to a dark religion, say like Islam, where it's, die by the, you're going to convert or die. That's that is within their religion. Now, people many times will use belief systems and religions to control others and to conquer, right? The Romans kind of clearly did they didn't have a mandate from Jupiter that said go out and conquer. They just did in the name, and that's there's been a lot of debate with biblical scholars. What is the unforgivable sin? I think they call it blasphemy of the Holy Spirit. And a lot of it is settled on it's doing things in God's name that he didn't tell you to do, right? This conquering and different stuff. So, but you find this, right? Because you'll find, right. And so one of the ideas is throughout these different philosophies that, whether they develop in a religion or not, is this at peace. You're best at peace. And you vibrate at a higher frequency than when you're scared. You this low frequency energy that's very destructive. That's very even health wise, right? If you're constantly living in fear and under stress and pressure, you vibrate at a lower frequency. You will age faster. Your immune system will deteriorate faster. You'll get all kinds of diseases in general. Whereas someone who is happier and satisfied and fulfilled with their life, they vibrate at a higher frequency. They live longer. They look younger for longer. You can have people that have similar genetic backgrounds, but one lives a different life, a harder life, and you look at the difference, and it's amazing. You look at them; they're both 40, but one looks 60 and one looks 30. And go look at pictures of people during the Great Depression. And you'll find, this person's 35 years old and they look like they're 60 years old because of all the pressure of not knowing when they were going to eat and, all of that setting. Or you get people who grow up in war zones and, and they're in their 20s, but they look like they're in their early 40s because of the stress and low frequency vibrations of dealing with, am I going to die today? Am I going to get shot or whatever?
Well, what's crazy is that if we want to give our guests, our few listeners, a more modern example of what you're talking about right now. I mean, just let's look at generally what it's almost kind of become like a stereotype now. Look at what just SJWs generally look like. Most of them are not very happy people. Most of them are very, very I guess you could say socially awkward, like almost any other socially awkward person. But it's like they don't know how to engage conversation. Everything with them is always about sunshines and rainbows. But they're also very anxious. They're also very angsty. They're very hot-headed. And you notice how a lot of them, I don't know if it's that they themselves are doing this to themselves, purposely making themselves look unattractive, or is it that they maybe just be unattractive because of just how angsty and how anxious they are all the time. You're talking about this. And I've noticed it a lot. It's become a meme at this point. Look at all the triggered memes of the lady that with the face. I know there's a famous one that's the one in the college. She looks like she's showing her teeth like a horse would, like that, with the lips making a no or something like that, and just displaying her teeth. I'm like, God, you got to be one of the most unattractive looking people out there. And I don't know if it's because you yourself are making yourself look that way, or is it maybe you just are because of the way you yourself feel? These are the people that always want everything to be sunshine and rainbows, but are usually the ones that are on edge all the time for every little thing, because for them, they have to point out the boogeyman everywhere it is. And so much so that they could even accuse their own shadow of raping them because it's too close.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's part of it. It's, Obviously everybody has a different genetic makeup, but I give you for instance, and I forget this woman's name. I think she's in her 50s. I think she's a few years older, but she looks, I don't look too old, but she looks younger than I am. And she's the vice president of something with marketing, and she is like smiling all the time. It's like she sees the absurdity in the most. Sometimes I will subconsciously be smiling when a situation gets beyond absurd, but it's like everything is truly an opportunity. So when it's hitting the rotary oscillator, she's still smiling because it's like, well, we found a way not to do it. Kind of like, not Einstein, but Edison. Trying for the light bulb. He found however many ways to not make one. And she's kind of like the same way. Okay, well, that didn't work. But now but we have better information now. We can make better decisions. See, that's also trying to flip the coin and say, okay, it's a negative, but we got better information that lets us know how our customers will react. And now we can make a better campaign. It's just amazing. And, I'm not saying people laugh, hey, my dad just died, ha, ha, ha. But,
no, there's general sadness. There's something that you can sad about.
But it's not,
but then it's also,
this constant, life sucks and everybody's out to get me. And, you go look at someone like that and you're like, man, when's your 50th birthday? And they're like, I'm 38.
And now that we're on the topic of females that look great in their age, it's funny. I work at the job I work is one of the most stressful places that you can ever work. I'm not going to reveal too much now, but we have women there that they're in their 30s and their 40s that are looking miles better than women that are half their age, in their 20s and such. The younger girls are not looking anything as good as these women because these women actually, they're very, it's a very stressful job, but they look at the positives of everything. They want to keep everything in a very positive attitude. They rarely ever start looking the negative in things. They keep their smile going. They take care of themselves. And you have the younger girls who kind of just, I guess, look attractive to certain people. When you really think about it, it's like compared to these older women that don't even have to try hard anymore at this point to look good. They could be wearing basic clothes and they're still looking better than these girls half their age who are getting all dressed up, all makeup and everything, who don't even look the part because part of the issue is their attitude. Their attitude comes off very negative, very, let's basically call it like this, bitchy. If you come off as a total bitch, you kind of start looking that part. So, I don't know. It's, and this is also one of the reasons I've always kind of had certain liking towards a lot of older women who especially like to take care of themselves. Again, Liquid Metal Pro does not discriminate ladies based on age. Of course, I'm not saying some people are going to try to twist my words around on that one. Legal age. Let's get that straight. Idiots. But because there's always going to be somebody there around there that's going to be like, oh, he says any age. What is he, some kind of like, you better stop it right there. Like, stop. Don't twist these words around now. I'm pretty sure I could find something to twist your words around. Let's not start a shit war. But you know what? Especially with us and BBCs, we just appreciate a MILF with a nice smile every now and then. Just saying.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, dude, let me go look at my list to make sure. I think it's about time to start wrapping this up. Check out the check out Ethan Van Sciver's channel. We'll put links in the description below. Check out his Cyberfrog campaign, Cyberfrog and something. I forget what he's calling that. Also check out Erik Ward's channel. So on YouTube, Ethan Van Sciver's ComicArtistPro Secrets. Erik Ward is Erik Ward. I'll put a link in the description as well. And that's with a K, not a CK. And also check out the flagship station, WCBS. They've got some new merch going out. I did get the what is that, Pando shirt. I've done some beer reviews in it. And for Cecil, it's another one. His channel is Cecil is Diversity, Inclusion, Compassion, Kindness, and Comics. I'll put a link there as well. I don't know if we'll ever have him on, but hey, if we do, go to his channel. If you're a fan of this podcast and you want to hear him on it, go to his channel and leave some nice comments, or follow him on Twitter and leave some nice comments. Also, I do have one other piece of info before we get to the BBC, and that is I posted yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, I posted a review of, I put it up 2 days ago, performance-inspired nutrition. It was a peanut butter chocolate something, chocolate thunder protein bar. I did a live taste test of it. And Kalen Webb, who's now known as Chortle Games on YouTube, by the way.
I knew it.
Left the message. But that brand reached out to me yesterday, and they are going to be sending me 2 flavors. I don't know how many. I don't know if I'm going to get 2 bars or 2 boxes or whatever. But we'll do an unboxing. I'll do an unboxing video when it arrives. Apparently that flavor is being discontinued. And they liked my video. I gave it a decent, it has extremely low in sugar. I think it's like 3 grams of sugar. No artificial sweeteners, so no sugar alcohols, no sucralose, nothing like that. So within the realm of that style of protein bar, it actually was pretty good. If you're not used to something that low in sugar, you may not like it, which I'd also say in the video. So I gave it like a 7.5 to 8 out of 10 on taste and texture in light of that. Now overall it's probably about a 6.5, but if you're used to really sweet things. So as is interesting, my supplement videos tend to get more notice than my beer reviews. Now I do some beer reviews with I have had breweries reach out to me saying, hey, yeah, you got this right or this wrong, but none of them have ever sent me any free stuff. Or said, hey, when you're in the neighborhood, stop by, let's do an interview, which I would love. But this is the third supplement company that's reached out to me about some free product. I mean, one of them they sent me, and I still need to do those videos. I should have done them in February when I was unemployed, but I was too lazy. I mean, I've done taste tests, but I want to do some cooking videos with them. They also sent me some protein. This was Fit Crunch sent me a shirt. Which is too tight. I think it's a large, which is, people don't realize my size. I mean, I look thin. They don't understand that I'm not huge, but I'm not as thin as people I look. I mean, people at the gym guess my weight by 30 to 40 pounds under. So I'm a little bit bigger than I look. Plus, I'm a lot taller. But if you've seen the video of Jeff and I, you know how tall we are. Or the one I just did with, I did a thing with Brian Francisco's tips and tricks with Final Cut Pro. I'm standing in front of a 6-foot fence, and it like comes up to my mouth. So that ought to tell you. So,
well, ladies, you heard it from Brian Lape. He's bigger than he looks.
Yeah. Objects in the
that
river.
Becomes a feature.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's on its way. I hope to get it soon. We'll do some unboxing of that. My Millville video continues to be my most watched video by far, which is for months now. That has been a third of my views each month is that video, believe it or not. And I still get comments, which is pretty wild. I got a comment the other day, someone asking if it had artificial sweeteners, and I had to go look up the ingredients because I couldn't remember. It's been over a year, but hey, it's good. But so we'll put links to Erik's and all the stations, all the channels I mentioned. You got anything else, LMP, before we do the BBC?
Well, now that you mentioned Kalen Webb, I'd like to say, buddy, thanks for your support.
Yes, sir. And I know he put in a thing on his latest video where he said he may not do WCBS videos for a while because apparently he said they reached out to him saying something about tailgating or riding his coattail or something. I don't remember exactly what he said, so I was kind of sad by that. So LMP, I'm going to send you a link to an image while we're talking. This is a young woman that I cannot believe we haven't had as a BBC. That's why I was going through the list. But Keeley Hazell, I could have sworn we had her as a BBC, but I cannot find her as one. She's not on the list. I went back through all episodes. We started this. We did a little bit on episode 5. We didn't do it with 6, but I think 7 or 8 was when we officially started this. And as far as I can tell, that's what God gave her. So she is a British actress, if I remember correctly. And so
they're Brit women with them big tits.
Yeah, she's an English model and actress. There is a video running around that people are labeling as her, but apparently it is a lookalike. In fact, the lookalike has implants. It's obvious to tell. So you do a little bit of research, you realize it's bogus. But she's from Lewisham, London, United Kingdom. She's 5'6", and born 3 months after I graduated high school. September of '86. So
hey, just tell her that you're bigger than you look. She might be into you. Like,
yes, and I don't know if she's married or not, and I don't care. All right, so if that is it, this has been episode 40 of the Fancast. I have been your goofball host, Brainmuffin, and with me has been LMP. Say goodnight.
Good night, you SOBs.
Alrighty, goodbye. Let the bumper music roll, whatever it is.
And that's how we lost the sponsorship.